On today's show, an annual tradition continues with Robby Kalland joining me to talk about some over-under win totals across the NBA landscape. We'll have part one of that discussion coming to you right now.
You are Locked On Hawks, your daily Atlanta Hawks podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
Hello, friends. Welcome to episode 1551 of the Locked On Hawks podcast. I am your host, Brad Rowland. It is Monday here in mid-September, and this episode is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook, official sportsbook partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Right now, if you're a new customer, bet $5, get $200 back in bonus bets guaranteed. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon to get started. And also, I encourage you at the top of the podcast each and every time to make it your first listen each and every day. Subscribe to the podcast anywhere you get your podcasts, places like Apple, Spotify, YouTube on the video side. And by the way, if you're watching on YouTube, you'll already see the guest on today's show. Robby Kalland is here, the legend himself, my close friend, and an annual tradition resumes here in mid-September. I waited long enough. I almost asked you to do this in like August when it was like the total depths. It's probably better to do it now. Robby, welcome back.
Pleasure to be here. It's the official sign the season's about to be underway, man. We're a couple weeks out from media day. We got camp coming up, preseason coming up. Fired up, man. Win totals.
As we record this podcast on Monday, September 18th, I won't timestamp all of these. This one is the first one we're doing. The Hawks Media Day is literally in 2 weeks from today. It's exactly 2 weeks from today. They play a preseason game 3 weeks from tomorrow. So it's coming no matter what.
Rapidly approaching.
I somehow talked you into doing a 6-part edition this time around. Things have changed at the network. They don't like when I do 2-hour podcasts. So we usually do basically East and West, and it take like 4 hours combined. And this time we're going to do 6 different episodes, division by division, Robby. And this is
baby.
One of the West.
You know that thing NBA fans love, divisions. They
Listen,
talk about them constantly. That's how we always discuss the league.
There are banners hanging at State Farm Arena. You've seen them for division titles. You've seen them in person.
Bring back the widespread panic poster.
It's just a very natural way. I think Zach Lowe does this too. I know your friend of mine, Daniel LaRue, does division previews on his podcast. It's just a natural way to chop things up in a way that makes kind of sense. I don't know. And we are going to save the East for the end. And I think intentionally going to do the Southeast last because the Southeast is the division the Atlanta Hawks are in. But today, on this episode that people are listening to right now, the Pacific Division. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't on purpose, but this is also arguably the best division in the league. The lowest over-under win total, according to our friends at FanDuel, is 44.5 in this division. That is pretty good. When all 5 teams are supposed to be 44.5 or higher, that's relatively impressive. We're not going to do like a full capsule on the division right now. But let's go to the top, Robby. Waste no more time. A team that people are very excited about. A team that used to be kind of your home team, essentially. The Phoenix Suns used to live in Flagstaff. It was close by. You went to training camp multiple times, I feel like.
Because it was in Flagstaff.
That's fine. I'm just saying you covered them. The Phoenix Suns, 52.5 is the number at FanDuel. I know you'll appreciate this. It is juiced to the under right now. It's not, for the uninitiated on this, if it's minus 110 on both sides, which is where most of these are, I won't mention it. When there is some action, it seems like going on one direction or the other, it's like minus 125 or 130 on the under right now at FanDuel. But that's the number, and we're going to be using FanDuel for all of these numbers. Robby will, I'm sure, throw in some alternates along the way. But that's where we are, Robby. I'll just do this now.
Yeah.
The Suns made a lot of changes. Not every team made a lot of changes, but they added, of course, Bradley Beal. They also brought in an assortment of supporting players: Eric Gordon, Yuta Watanabe, Keita Bates-Diop, Drew Eubanks. The list is long. They, of course, lost Chris Paul and Jock Landale, your guy in mind, campaign, Torrey Craig. Landry Shamet is not on this team anymore. Anyway, it's all kinds of stuff. And look, this is a weird one. Like some of these teams, and we'll get into them, have where last year matters a lot.
Yeah.
This year doesn't. This is one that I kind of think it doesn't matter that much, but they were 45 wins last year, and that was about what they were point differential wise. Broad thoughts on the Suns, Robby? Because this is obviously a very high number for a team that has a lot of expectations.
Yeah, I mean, their health is what it's going to come down to, really. This is a team, I mean, you got to remember that a couple of years ago, they won 60-plus back-to-back years. with that Chris Paul, Devin Booker, DeAndre Ayton group. Obviously, a lot of changes. It's a very different group, but like Booker tends to be on the court a lot. He tends to play a lot. It really comes down to Beal and Durant for me. KD, I did this with Sam Vecini recently, and I kind of hadn't realized how much KD had been off the floor.
He didn't play a lot these days.
It's like, I think he's like 4 straight years, obviously including the year he missed with the Achilles, under like 50 games played or something like that. Like it's like he only played 7 for them after the trade deadline last year. I don't know what to do with this, because if you could tell me KD played 60 games, I think you could talk me into the over pretty easily. Just because it's a good team. I like DeAndre Ayton more than a lot of folks. I actually think he's going to be good with Frank Vogel. Frank Vogel has a very good track record with centers of his size and skill set. I think Frank can get the way Frank wants his teams to play defense will help DeAndre Ayton be effective on that end. But their only hope defensively is KD to be healthy. KD, when he's healthy, it doesn't get talked about a lot. He's an elite defender.
He's very good.
And next to a guy like DeAndre Ayton, if you have both of them out there, you have rim protection. Like you have 2 guys who are going to make it very difficult to score at the rim. I lean over, which is weird given how high this number is. I lean over, but it's a stay away from me just because I don't know how much KD plays. And he's the one really for me that dictates everything. Beal's missed a lot of time as well.
Yeah, Beal's I had this actually. Beal has not played more than 59 or 60 games since 2018-19. So he's not been out there a lot. And granted, Washington's been a little bit funny the last couple of years, but he also has injuries. Like he's not like a healthy guy. I mean, you talked about it. It's how much does KD play? And obviously, can they just defend it all? I mean, and KD helps that, but their defense, they did do some, I think, kind of sneaky good work on the margins. Like, Bates Diop's a good defender if he can play enough if he can stay on the court enough. Josh Okogie is a good defender if he can stay on the court enough. Utah can defend. Eric Gordon is beefy. If nothing else, he can switch for you and do some stuff. So I kind of like what they did, honestly. I would not bet this over because there's too much risk. But if you told me they won 60, I wouldn't be terribly surprised. And that means KD played a lot, basically, and Booker played a lot.
There's 51.5 out there. So, like, again, this is one.
There's a reason it's juiced to the under at FanDuel. I'm sure that's why.
Shop it around a touch if you're looking for the over. But, I mean, like, if you're really confident, then maybe 52.5 and take the juice. I don't know. Was that even money?
If you're going to bet if you're going to bet the under, I think FanDuel, a quick glance here, is probably the best. Probably the place to do it.
Probably the best shot for the under.
And look, I think it's weird. If you just did the simulation, like, does this hit under or over more often or not? I think it probably goes under more often than I don't know. It's close, but the highs are higher on the over side because they could be the best team in the league, and they just could be. So
I mean, the thing is they could miss. Like, here's my thought. Okay, like the Nets with KD and Kyrie last year were on like 48, 49 win pace, and they weren't playing all the time. Like, the thing is, it's like they could miss KD for a good chunk of this season. Like, not half of it, but like he could play 55 games and they could threaten this. They have that much.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
As the key here is, can KD and Beal miss time separately? Can they not be out at the same time?
If they have 2 of the 3. Yeah, if they have 2 of the 3, and if Beal's, I mean, we won't go down this road, but is Beal Beal? I mean, we don't know what Beal is, but assuming he is kind of what he used to be, I tend to agree. If they have 2 of those 3 guys available, and look, Ayton, Ayton, Ayton's got to play
in the regular season.
Yeah, that's the one thing other than obviously Katie's Katie, but they can't really afford Ayton to not.
No,
like,
they don't.
If something happens to Ayton, they're going to be in trouble.
They don't have a
backup. Anyway, that's enough of that. And just for everybody that may not know this, we're not going to give a play on every team. It's going to be maybe some leans, maybe some no bets all the way across. And then if we tell you we like something, then we like something. That's what we'll be for now. Today's show is brought to you by FanDuel Sportsbook. Snap into the action of the NFL season right now with FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. And right now, if you're a new customer, you can bet $5 and get $200 back in bonus bets, guaranteed. Beyond the awesome perks of signing up with FanDuel, they have everything that you're looking for across the sports betting space. That includes point spreads, over-unders, money lines, player props, game props, future bets, and much more. And the app is safe and secure with FanDuel. They cover the whole range of sports as well. That includes stuff beyond the NFL, like college football, NBA, MLB, WNBA, college basketball, golf, tennis, soccer, auto racing, and much more. And now is the best possible time to join FanDuel. Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon. Check out the official sportsbook partner of Locked On Podcast Network with an offer that you absolutely do not want to miss. That is FanDuel.com/lockedon. FanDuel, official partner of the NFL. Okay, Robbie.
Yep.
Let us go to team number 2. And dealer's choice here. They have the same over-under at FanDuel. You want to do the Lakers or the Warriors next?
Let's do the Lakers.
Okay, the Lakers added Gabe Vincent, old friend Cam Reddish, old friend Taurean Prince, Christian Wood late, Jackson Hayes, and first-round pick Jalen Hood-Schifino. They lost old friend Dennis Schroeder. Lots of old friends here. Lonnie Walker, who had, of course, the huge playoff game, the one huge playoff game. Troy Brown, Malik Beasley, and Mo Bamba. Weird one because it's 48.5 at FanDuel right now. Last year they won 43, but they were playing at a 50-something win pace post all the trades. The problem is, and this is like the ultimate example, arguably, of how much do the Stars play, because I have some numbers for you on Anthony Davis before we start anything else. Anthony Davis, last 5 years, games played, 56, 62, 36, 40, 56. If he plays 36, they're not getting to this number. If he plays 60, they certainly could. That it's not quite that simple, but when you throw in LeBron, who also is, I believe, has played 56 or fewer in 4 of the last 5 seasons, if they both play, then they're going to be really good, and if they don't, then they probably won't be that good. We'll see.
I mean, here's my thing: is like they both played like 56 last year. It was like 56 and 55 last year, and they won 43.5 games. They started 2-10. Like,
once they made the deals, like got rid of Russ, and like they were legitimately good.
They were the best team in the West.
They were very good.
The best team record-wise in the West. Second half of the season, obviously, that comes with the caveat Denver did not care anymore very clearly,
and that's why the number is 48.5. I mean, other than it's also the Lakers, but that's why the number is. If this was a different team, you would not expect a jump from 42 or 43 wins to 48.5 wins on the over/under. But the combination of we know how good they were in the second half, and just they're the Lakers, so it's going to get some attention.
I kind of like the over here. It's one of those things where it's like it's similar to the Suns, where there's definitely a recipe for the under, but like I feel like there is a floor here of kind of mid 40s. Like it just feels to me, given the way how last year, like you could not have written a worse possible start.
Oh, they were awful
for the Lakers season last year, and they still get to 43. And so it's like, I just feel like there's kind of a floor around that number, barring catastrophic stuff, where like LeBron and AD both go out week 2 and don't come back. Like, but beyond that, if you're factoring in normal, let's say 55 each from LeBron and AD seems fair.
If they do that, I kind of
like the over. Like the over. I like what they did this offseason. I think the depth is just better. Gabe Vincent is basically, to me, that's just D'Angelo Russell insurance, mostly for the postseason. But it gives them another high-level guard, which they didn't have last year. Even when they added D'Angelo Russell, it was, Russell and Reeves and Dennis. And so it's like you replace Dennis with Gabe, and it's kind of a similar thing. But I think Gabe is a little bit more, I guess it feels, now obviously in World Cup play, maybe you do want Dennis creating for himself, but non-FIBA Dennis,
he needs the ball less.
I feel a little bit better about Gabe being an impact guy for them on a consistent basis. Dennis has real high highs and some low lows, as Hawks fans are well aware. And I think Gabe Vincent, and him and Strus, I think the thing that they boosted their stock the most with in the playoffs is they showed that they don't have to be crazy, hot shooting to have positive impact in that postseason run. I think that's the biggest thing the Lakers need is like when D'Angelo Russell is not scoring, he's a negative by like a lot. Like when he is just doesn't have it offensively and he's not knocking down shots, as we saw in the postseason, he's almost unplayable. But now you have a guy who's a little less variable than even Dennis was. And I like what they've done. Jared Vanderbilt's still there. I think,
signed a value extension. I mean, we should at least mention
Reeves
the name of Austin Reeves.
Crazy value extension.
Yeah, he's gotten better. I mean,
restricted free agency's broken.
So yes.
Don't get me going.
Some of the talk about Austin Reeves got a little off the rails this summer, but he's a good player.
On the breaks, he's very good.
And he'll be in a bigger role all season long.
I don't
talk about the debt. Like the guys, and I'm not going to say these guys are moving the needle, but like they added enough. I mean, the chances of getting something out of the combination of Hayes and Taurean Prince and Christian Wood, and there's a guy there that I don't know who it's going to be, but somebody will help them. I think it might be Taurean.
Yeah, Taurean. It's a good role for Taurean.
It is
a very focused role for him.
Low pressure,
usually where he's at his best is on, when he's been on solid teams where he's just asked to do his thing. It's when you kind of maybe need to rely on him for a little bit more that it gets dicey. And look, for the playoffs, I don't like having to rely on Christian Wood, but if you're talking about the guy who can give you insurance when Anthony Davis isn't out there, at least in terms of offensive impact.
Oh yeah. That's what that was for.
That's what it is. It's it does mitigate that. Now defensively, it's going to be a catastrophe when Anthony Davis is.
And honestly, I think they should probably play him with AD some, because AD,
AD does
say,
not want
hey,
to
AD, he's playing center. That guy next to you, he's playing
exactly.
Center.
No, and they will. And so again, Christian Wood at $3 million is very different than Christian Wood at $17 million. And it also makes it easier to tell him what his role is. I think that gets underrated when we talk about, will a guy embrace a role? When a guy's making big money, he's not making that thinking, okay, I'm going to take a smaller role. But when the guy's making the minimum deal, it's a little easier to tell him, hey, this is what we're having you do. And it's a little easier for him to have to kind of fall in line on that, because there is just but there just is a hierarchy that comes. Now, I'm not saying this is going to work beautifully, but I do see how he can be more helpful for them in this role than how destructive he was at times in Dallas, especially playing for a coach and Jason Kidd who wanted nothing to do with him at points.
That's correct.
And it's going to be, I will say, it could go wrong because Darvin isn't that much different from Jason Kidd when it comes to he's not going to play if you don't play defense. Darvin does not like if you don't bring it on defense. That is his whole everything.
Yep.
And so I'm fascinated to see how that works. But again, if you think of it as when AD's out, they have somebody who can score 18 in the front court, it's fine. Yeah, I kind of like the over, but again, it is scary enough with if AD misses 50 games, that becomes.
And LeBron, I mean, look, LeBron is a.
I pencil in 55 to 60.
And that's what I'm saying. And look, LeBron he's not human in some respects, but he's 30. What is he? 38, 39? He's not going to play 60 plus, I don't think. So yeah, it's I'm with you. I think if it goes the way it could go over, I would not touch it personally, but I get why it is where it is.
Yeah.
Let us go to the Warriors now.
Mm-hmm.
I teased it before. Similar, in fact, the exact same number, 48.5, slight juice to the under at FanDuel right now. This is a bizarre one because the Warriors, this is how many years in a row have they been seen as a much more dynamic playoff threat than regular season threat. It's kind of what they are at this point. They had an overhaul as well, headlined by the Jordan Poole, Chris Paul trade, but they bring in Dario Saric, who I like for them. They lose White Dante. That's a real loss. He was really good for them. Yep. And weirdly, last year they were a 44-win team. They went kind of famously 11-30 on the road, and just one of the weirder things I've ever seen. And Steph played 56 games, which is kind of what you expect on some level from Steph. But here's the one people are not taking into account, Robbie. Andrew Wiggins played 37 games last year.
He did.
Andrew Wiggins has always been extremely durable.
And it wasn't an injury thing. It was a weird personal thing that nobody ever could really get a handle on. And the Warriors were just we don't care. Stop asking about it.
And it's a weird thing where nothing gets undercovered with a team like the Lakers or the Warriors. But I feel like it was almost undercovered because, especially in the aftermath, because it was hey, he's either the third or fourth best player, and he's he's really good. Like Andrew Wiggins has come full circle. Like he's very, very valuable to them. And he missed half the season. And when he came back, he wasn't like in the flow at all. So anyway, I think that got under discussed. They do lose a lot of minutes from Poole and Dante.
Jordan Poole played all 82 last year. That was the thing for me that like, I know it's easy to be like, oh, kind of like lol Jordan Poole. He was just chucking all that.
I mean, he was very bad in a lot of ways. But
he wasn't great for them, but he also, there were times where he was the only one out there.
Yes.
Like there were games where it was like him and Clay. And at this point, Clay's not what Clay was in terms of like what he can do for you and he's not going to create. Like there were just games where Jordan Poole had to create a lot, which like, is not going to be too dissimilar from what he's asked to do in Washington this year. But, like I'm going to be interested to see how they go. Cause like Chris Paul's not replacing all those minutes. And now you get obviously Wiggins back, hopefully
it's going to be a lot more
plus, but it's like, I'm interested to see how they replace that because that is a genuine concern for me regular season wise. I'm not worried about like postseason. They're a better team than they were last year. I feel pretty confident about that. And that's what they care about. For me, when it was 49.5, I had a lean under no play. 48.5, it's even more of a no play, and I hate the under. I hate saying lean under even more.
I wouldn't touch the under. I mean, other things we could do a whole preview on them, but like Gary Payton is healthy right now. I'm still big on Moses Moody. They brought in Corey Joseph.
The other thing is, I think Kuminga might be kind of good.
Well, their pivot points are I mean, it's not anything new, but their pivot points are Moody and Kuminga. Like it's like how good are they? Because they in the past, and everyone's wanted to see them more, and that includes me. But like now they kind of have to play more. Yeah. It is like there's not anybody. Poole's not there to take the minutes. Neither is Dante. And you bring in Saric, who I like, but Saric's going to play mostly as a big for them, I assume.
Yes.
So they're going to have
he's going to be like backup 5.
Like backup to Looney and Draymond, and we'll see. And, they brought in Trey Jackson-Davis, who I kind of like by second-round pick standards. Like, he actually might play for them.
He probably will.
Anyway, I kind of lean over. I wouldn't bet the over, but
the thing that scares me about the Warriors, they've shown last few years,
they don't care about
really don't care late. They really stop. They pedal off. They are very much let's get healthy for the playoffs team.
Agreed.
And like that scares me when you're talking about a number. Like remember 2 years ago when they were in the battle with Memphis and they just punted and they were like, "Yeah, Memphis, y'all can have the 2 seed. We don't care. We'll come into Memphis and beat y'all." And they did. And like last year, they're like, yeah, we'd love to go to Sacramento. Like Draymond's like stumping for it on his podcast. He's like, it'd be great. We don't have to fly anywhere. Like it's an hour up the road. Like it'll be great. We'd love the 6 seed. And so like they are the team that scares me the most as to once they feel comfortable in that 4, 5, 6, once they feel comfortable, they're not in the play-in. They're just going to be like,
yeah, they might pedal, and that's one of the reasons I wouldn't touch it. But.
Cool. That was basically my entire handicap for the under. But it does scare me with Wiggins and Payton particularly getting a bunch of minutes from them. Although I think Payton and Dante in a way kind of wash out. But Wiggins is
players, but that's the one
but I just mean like
even looking in prep for this, I was like, wait, Wiggins played how many games? Like
7.
It just wasn't. Yeah, it's just not very many. All right, let us move on to the Los Angeles Clippers, a very, very weird team who, in contrast to other teams, did basically nothing. They added KJ Martin, who's a useful player, a couple of rookies, Kobe Brown, most chief among them. They lost Eric Gordon. They won 44 games last year. The number is 46.5 games this year, and it is actually juiced to the over right now. I have a couple of numbers for you before we move on.
Yeah, sure.
They were 33-19 with Kawhi last year.
The thing was they were very good, but they weren't like unbelievable with him. Like 33-19 is very good, but like the thing is that's
52 win pace, which isn't like
lower
absurd.
Than you would think. That's lower than I would think with Kawhi, and so that like
and a lot of that was because I guess PG didn't play a chunk of that too, and they only had one of them.
So here's the thing: last year was the most games Kawhi and Paul George have ever played combined.
And they were very good. I mean,
they were good.
They're like plus 9 on the court together. Like that's really good.
That's fine.
Not plus 20 though.
But it's not. It really wasn't as impactful as I thought it would have been when I went through all these numbers a week or two ago. I was like, I'm tired of. I've tried.
I'm tired
of the Clippers. Like I really am. Like I've tried to buy in. I've come on this pod and been,
over.
Clippers are going to be it. Over. We're going to do it. Like it doesn't matter if Kawhi and Paul George play 55. Like they got too much. No. And you want to know why? And I kind of came up with this theory with Sam. Is like, I think Tyronn Lue's great with stars. I don't think he's very good with role players. And I think the thing that's come up. The thing that keeps coming up with them is the roles are never consistent. And those guys, you never get the production out of. Like, think about Terrence Mann.
He's a
How many times he does. And it's like he's great with the stars. And that's why he got hired there. It's why everybody loves him. Like LeBron and Kyrie and Kawhi and Paul George, they all love him. But like Terrence Mann never has a consistent role. He is always like he'll play 25 minutes a couple nights and then he'll like miss 3 games.
Well, it's like in the playoffs where they always seem to have a terrible start to every series, and then Lue, to his credit, makes great adjustments and they get back in the series. But like, how about you just don't go down 2-0? Like, how about the innovative approach of like maybe being prepared for a series? Like, I don't know. It's just
it kills me. And so like I've been thinking about it, and it's like. Robert Covington, same way. Like he just gets ejected from the lineup. Yeah. Marcus Morris Sr., old, but like again, like he goes through these fits and spells with guys, and when you have 2 stars that aren't consistently on the floor, and you're not giving consistent roles to everybody else, of course there's going to be high variance from game to game. Of course, you're going to have nights where guys look great, and then you're going to have nights where nobody seems to know what they're doing because the role changes game to game. And it's not just because the stars are out. It's because the coach is changing his rotation constantly, and he's just kind of throwing stuff at the wall. And I think it's just think about, what was it, 2 years ago that we looked at the team, and we were like, this team's crazy deep. They go 12 deep with legit. They had 12 guys. They had 12 guys but like, because they had 12 guys, it was he was paralyzed by choice, and he just never figured out a rotation. And what you get with role guys is like guys want to be comfortable, and they're never comfortable in LA with the Clippers. And for that reason, under for me. And like, not even like I'm scared of it under. Wow. Like just under. I'm done with the Clippers. Now here's the year they win 53.
I was going to say,
but
you know what happens here.
Yeah, no, of course. No, Kawhi plays 60. Paul George plays 65.
I am higher on them than you, but that's probably just I can't. I have to give it up.
Like I get it. Listen, I get it. Kawhi and Paul, like they're phenomenal. They're both great. Like Paul George was unbelievable last year. And, it was probably his second best season since the third in the MVP.
I think Kawhi is how good Kawhi was is being under discussed because
he was preposterous
in the middle of everything else, like his
but
Kawhi-ness.
Again,
but they don't
just win a ton.
They don't play. They also just don't play.
But they were 33-19, and Kawhi was the best he's been since Toronto.
And the rest of the roster is fine, but it isn't gonna move you. Like I like KJ Martin a lot. That was a good addition.
That was a great addition. Well, that was way to take advantage.
Change your life, though.
Way to take advantage of just the worst process ever from Houston this
I don't know what they were doing. We'll talk about that at some other point. But okay, you're on the under. I am more neutral.
I don't like. It's close to solid for me. I don't think I'm gonna play it, but like. I kind of like I don't like it juiced.
Maybe it moves. Like, no, it's juiced over. I mean,
juiced over?
Maybe at least FanDuel. Maybe it gets to 47 for you, and you can come back down.
Now you're talking.
Now we'll throw that out there. All right, one more team here before we sign off on this jam-packed Pacific Division is the Sacramento Kings. Now I'll plug this now. Hawks fans have an investment in the Kings. I discussed that at length last week. Had Greg Wessinger on, great guy. Kings Herald, great coverage. Lots of Hawks attention on the Kings because of that protected first-round pick that might be coming to Atlanta. So we talked about them already a little bit. But the number at FanDuel is 44.5. They didn't do as little as the Clippers. they didn't make huge moves. No. They added on the margins. It was Chris Duarte. It was JaVale McGee. They lost Rashawn Holmes. They lost Terrence Davis. Like, it's kind of just, the 7th guy or lower moves. And of course, last year they won 48 games. Their big breakout. They were, as everyone has talked about now, and I'll just say it again, they were the healthiest team in recent memory. Like, it was insane. Their top 8 guys played 73 games or more. That's impossible. That's not going to happen again. It's just not. And look, Greg made a good point on my show. Healthy is an interesting term, and obviously this is a Kings vantage point.
Right,
Sabonis was hurt.
Yeah, he had the wrist. He
was playing through it, but look, Sabonis at 80% is still playing. Like, he's still. And anyway, all that said, I think the most down the middle, analytical, like, smart guy NBA take is like the Kings are going to regress, and it's one that I share. Like, I think everyone is saying that, which is why the number is 44.5. They won 48 last year. They brought everybody back, and everybody's and even the folks at FanDuel, everybody else is like, how about some aggression? So, Robbie, is this a good number? I mean, I have all kinds of stats. Like, they went 26-8 against sub 500 teams last year. They just beat all the bad teams, which you can do when all your guys are healthy.
Yep. I
don't know. It's a good number. I'll say that it's a good smart number, because if it was 47.5, I'd be screaming.
Yes.
But 44.5 is like, okay, that's kind of what it probably should be.
Which is kind of funny, because it's come up, like, when I went through this, it was 43.5. So it's kind of
come up, and that, I mean, look,
keep an eye on it.
If I was a Kings fan and I saw 43.5 after last season, it would bother me. Like, look, that's too low. And look, if they're as healthy as they were last year, they're going to go over this number. They are. I just don't think I'm not rooting for injury. I hope these guys stay healthy. It's just
the reality of
it's the reality. And it's like, look, I looked at tons of data like that. There's the games lost metrics and stuff I've looked at for the Hawks, and it just doesn't happen. Like, no team has their top 8 guys play 73 games or more in the current NBA. Back in the day, it happened a lot more. Doesn't happen now.
Well, and like that goes to kind of what I was talking about with the Clippers, where like it helps those role guys so much when there's a consistent role. Like they got great play from pretty much everybody up and down that roster.
Oh, Harrison
Barnes, great.
Herter, Monk, even Murray. Like Murray beat my every rookie sucks projection. He was actually pretty helpful and pretty good.
He was helpful for a winning team. I'm interested to see what happens in terms of what comes next, because the other thing about it's not just that they were healthy. It's they were never, ever a game circled on the schedule.
Oh, no. And that's part of why they were so good against bad teams, too.
Right, because nobody was, like, getting up for the Kings coming to town.
And they're great on the road. One more thing. They were second best in the entire league on the road, only behind Milwaukee.
I'd be interested to see also, like, early on, kind of if they were one of the, because teams kind of pick early in the season. They pick their, like, kind of the load management days. They pick the rest days for guys. And they do that pretty early. I bet the Kings were on there more than they should have been, given where they ended up.
Oh, yeah. I'm almost sure.
And so when I look at the Kings, I think it's a lean under. When I did this with Sam, I think I stayed off out of kind of respect for Kings fans. Because, like,
hi, Greg.
Hey, Greg. Hey, Tom. Hey, Tony. All of the guys, Akis, everybody. Like, they're great. Like, I love Kings fans. Among the best in the league. But I just – it's hard not to see the regression. It's hard not to wonder if teams come in with a better plan for them. They were the best – they were like the best offense in history last year.
They were. I will – so I don't forget, I will make one point. And before we pivot, on the pro-King sentiment. Please. If I was going to talk you into the over here, and I'm not going to, but if I was going to, I have two – the guy who would be responsible for that is Keegan Murray. Because I think if Keegan Murray jumps, I'm not saying it's going to happen, but it's the top 5 pick. And like that might have been a little early, but look, he was really good last year. He looked fantastic at Summer League. He's, I think, going to be better. And Sabonis and Fox are really good. I think if you sim the season 100 times and said, are those guys as good or better than last year? It's probably not going to be a lot better for sure. They might be the same, but I don't think they're going to get more out of those guys. But Murray might actually be the guy who goes to the next tier, and that could be the reason why. So if you're a Kings fan,
that's why
that's the path. And if you're a Hawks fan, just want some safety and not wanting to sweat this out in March and April and want the Kings to win 48 games, Keegan Murray is the way, I think. So
yeah, and like the other thing for me is I think the West got better around them. I think that's just a better conference than it was last year. And so there's just more, it's just harder to win.
Yeah.
Like 48, 49, like it's just,
I said, if it was 47 and a half,
we'd be locking it up. We would. So.
And this is one of those things about, the sports handicapping space. 10 years ago, this number would have been 47 and a half. It just would have been. And we all would have bet the under and would have won. And it is what it is. It's a lot harder than it used to be, which is why, as people will probably see over the course of this series of
not
episodes,
a lot of locks.
Not going to be a whole lot of plays.
No.
Because, look, it's not wise to play the entire board, generally speaking. All right, so you're leaning under, it seems like, on the Kings. I kind of lean under too, 44 and a half.
Yeah, 44 and a half.
If it was 43 and a half, I might go the other way. I think they're going to be in this range. I mean, that's the thing. It's a good number, and I think so. Just because it's a Hawks podcast before we sign off, this is where you want them to be if you're a Hawks fan. One more time, like you want the Kings to win between 43 and 46 games this year. That's exactly where you want them to be. Yep. We'll see if that happens or not. Okay, Robbie, we have more of this coming, but at the end of this episode, we'll just sign it off here. Anything to plug here on the Locked On Hawks podcast? I know you cover the NBA occasionally. Just saying. I
do cover the NBA occasionally. You can
2K rosters.
Jesus, yeah, 2K rosters. If you need to know what the Hawks 2K roster is and you don't have the game, we'll have a post up.
And once you post it, I'm going to do a whole segment on the podcast. So
there we go. Bring me fantastic. On. SEO business. We'll be firing up season previews, media day coverage around the league, all that good stuff coming up. Excited to finally have some actual basketball to talk about, not the 58th Damian Lillard update like we got today.
There's more coming, my friend. Brace for it.
I'm tired of it. Oh,
I'm going to go away. I can't wait to talk about the Blazers on this podcast with you when there's not even a number that's available. Can't find one anywhere. They're all off the board. Okay, that's it for that.
We'll book our own number. We'll take our own action
number
on the Locked On Hawks podcast from the YouTube comments.
Please subscribe to this podcast, everyone. Tell a friend. Follow Robbie's work across the board. And we'll see you all next time.